really talk about the gods of Atlantis because, well, there really wasn't any gods, but there was kind of a god figure, and it's a bit of a weird story, but this relates to the third leader of Atlantis, a guy called Japay, and, well, he wasn't a god, but anyway, I'll explain, but it also leads up to the subject of religion. But in a nutshell, Tantal had a leader that was a megalomaniac, narcissistic, self-absorbed, pompous, basically an a-hole with an extreme superiority complex. But he was very charismatic, good-looking in a most unusual sort of way, and he had a certain presence, je ne sais quoi. So essentially, he was an attractive, pathological egotist with a god complex. This wasn't so noticeable at the start of his reign, but as time progressed, he became more and more demanding of his people. He was more and more neglectful of them, and worst of all, he was excessively cruel. He decided he was a god and wanted everyone to worship him. The people acted as he wished, and many temples at this point in time. But the way it evolved, there were two layers to these temples, to the religion that came about in the Third Era. And one was the layer on top, the artificial layer, where everyone was pretending to worship Japay, and Japay's the greatest, and everything like that. But there was a layer underneath that, which was the layer that gave people comfort. They started to look inwards, and it's the nearest thing to a religion that I can describe for Atlantis, because it became a really spiritual place, and people would do the equivalent of meditating, and they would use techniques to try and link themselves to the universe and understand things better. And it's kind of difficult to describe, and it's actually quite complicated, but it is quite a fascinating development in that this would come out of such a terrible, cruel thing that Japay was doing. I'm not even sure that Japay ever knew that there was this other layer to the religion that he set up, because I think that he'd have got pretty angry if he had known. I think all that he needed to know was that everyone was saying Yahoo for Japay and making him feel really important, so that as long as that was going on, then he didn't really need to know that all this time they were spending in the temples was self-betterment, and that's probably a good thing. I could probably do a whole episode on religious concepts around Atlantis, but I don't know if people would be interested in that. Let me know.